How's it going, people? I thought I'd just expand a little bit more on that last post about the negative and positive emotions and just try and maybe explain a little bit deeper into my kind of theory or philosophy on it, really, I suppose, um, about allowing yourself to have negative emotions and allowing yourself to really understand what they are and where they come from. Because what I mean, it's a big thing in like spiritual communities, especially, is that you have to be positive all the time, always positive, always positive. And it's like sometimes things are just shit. Sometimes things suck. Sometimes life gets on top. Sometimes there's shit that you got to deal with that you don't really want to. And there's stuff that you don't want to do and you have to do it, you know? And it's very, very difficult to try and kind of be positive in those moments. And the reason is because you're not supposed to. you know, we're humans. We have such a large range of emotions that most of us, we don't even know how big that range is. I mean, a lot of us pinpoint them down to very, very specific emotions, but they span way more than that, you know. And when these negative situations come up and these negative emotions come up, what's important is to actually look at them and embrace them and understand them for what they are. Because when you feel negative about something, you're allowing yourself to really observe that emotion, observe where that's coming from, understand why it's coming up, to then perhaps not even feel that again in a similar situation. So I've had it many times, where I kind of, especially at the beginning of my journey, when I started all this kind of stuff out, it was always trying to be positive or as positive as possible, and it pissed me off. If I'm honest, it really, really irritated me because it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to feel negative. I can't do that. That's negative. I can't say that. That's negative. And it's like, actually, this is a really shitty position to be in. And I felt like I was taking it away from myself. I felt like I was like, if I was feeling negative or feeling any sort of negative emotions, it was like a naughty kid that wasn't allowed something. And it made it so much more difficult to function and understand kind of what was going on with me, because I wasn't allowing myself to actually know what was going on with me. I was just always passing it off and going, no, 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 I'll just look at it positively. But as I was saying in the post, when you observe the negative emotions and when you understand them, you embrace them and you accept them, that is when you can really begin to overcome them, right? So if you're feeling, say you've been through a breakup, this is a good one because this is where people feel a lot of new emotions coming up. You've been through a breakup. There is no way at the beginning of a breakup that you're going to really look at it positively. If this breakup has actually hurt you, you're not going to feel positive about it. It's going to hurt. It's going to bring up a lot of new emotions. It's going to bring up a lot of bad emotions, a lot of negative emotions. And to wipe them aside and try and feel positive is taking the most human part of yourself away, because you've been hurt, you're hurting, that there's emotions that are coming up which are uncomfortable. But when you observe and you accept those emotions, you understand why they're there. So when we go through breakups, there's perhaps a feeling of rejection, embarrassment, um, thoughts of unworthiness, maybe a variety of different things that come up. But when you observe them, you can change them. So rejection's a good one. Rejection, I'll use myself as an example. I have childhood PTSD from rejection. So for me, when I go through a breakup or I get rejected by a female, it triggers something. And at first, when I didn't know what it was, I would ignore it and try and look at it differently. Now, I allow myself to embrace it, accept it, and then notice what it's bringing up, to then allow me to overcome that, to not feel that sense of rejection anymore or lessen that sense of rejection, right? But if I was to write that off and look at it in a positive sense, I wouldn't understand what it was. I wouldn't understand the range of emotions that I was going through. I wouldn't understand why I was going through this or why I was feeling this way. So embracing the negative emotions is actually the most positive way of moving forward, which sounds like a massive paradox, but it's not. Because when you're able to overcome things and accept things, you're not going to repeat the same thing again if you learn from it. If you choose to learn from it, you won't repeat that again. So each negative emotion you can look at as a positive because you're helping yourself learn from it, right? So when you're in that situation again, you're going to feel differently, okay? And end of the day, if you didn't know what negative emotions were, you wouldn't know what positive emotions were. You'd be going through life pretty flat, you know. If you didn't know what sadness was like, you wouldn't understand happiness. If you didn't know what it was like to feel depressed, you wouldn't know what it would be like to feel joyful, you know, because we all feel these things. As much as some people feel them more than others, as much as people feel more depressed than others, and some people feel more anxious than others, we all have those range of emotions, and we all feel those at certain points in our life, and we have to embrace all of them. As much as we embrace the positive, we have to embrace the negative. I know everyone wants to reach for the positive, but when we understand the negative, that's when we can feel the positive all that more and understand what we're working towards, right? So I just wanted to break that down a little bit just to stop any confusion, or if you like scrolled past it and seen it and thought, what the fuck's this guy talking about? Just explain it a little bit more and understand that yes, life can be sucky, but life can also be really good. You know, we live in a duality. We live in good and bad, and we have to embrace both because that's our life here as humans, you know. And when, like me, as I've explained before, I'm a spiritual person. I'm into a lot of spiritual things, but there's a lot of the new age stuff, which is this whole you have to be positive all the time shit, that I don't embrace, and I choose not to take a part in that because I feel like it's damaging to people. And I much prefer understanding it in both sense of understanding the negative and positive, to then be able to fully embrace the experience of being a human, you know. So that's all I've got to say on the subject for now. There are a few posts on the website, on the blog, if you want to read a little bit further. A lot of them kind of talk about similar things in that aspect of negative versus positive emotions. All of it is well, I try and write and speak as realistic as I can, rather than trying to spout out some fucking spiritual, you have to be positive all the time, love and light bullshit. So hopefully that hits people properly, you know. And if anyone does want to discuss this any further, or wants to discuss maybe not fully understanding their negative emotions, or feeling like there's too many negative emotions and not enough positive, then by all means just hit me up in the inbox and we can have a chat about that. All right. So for now, love you all. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.